The Hang Seng is down over 1%.
43,970 should not be taken out.
Around a 200 price increase, both on lumps as well as fines.
However, brokerages are quite bullish on Cipla, so don't be surprised if you see some buying on that stock. But on the headline index, absolutely flat with a positive bias.
Broadening out of the expectations for growth.
Cyber thefts and data breaches, a lot of instances have come to light in the last 2 to 3 odd months.
We're talking about just one sector alone contributing 15%.
Honasa Consumer is up nearly 36% this week. From the post-listing lows, it's up 84%.
An important development today, the Adani case will finally be heard today before the Apex Court.
Maybe it's not that bad. We are seeing flattish trends, at least as far as the index is concerned.
The drug regulator CDSCO has started a major enforcement drive to crack down on poor manufacturing practices.
The markets continue to remain in a range as the Nifty is now trading below the 19,800 mark.
Okay, range it is, range-bound day, and one that's absolutely flat on the index. But you go down to the stock level and then there's ample action there. This is closing bell. We're down to the last hour of the day and the week. I'm Surabhi Upadhyay, and in a bit we'll have the entire team, Nigel, Prashant and Reema join in just a second. Let's go back to that Nifty graph because that's where there's been absolute sort of dead heat. No movement whatsoever. It's just been 15-20 points on either side of the flat line. That's how the day's progressed. We did dip to the lows of the session, but the good news is below that level, below the 19,800 level, buyers have come in and we are back to the mark of 19,800. Just a quick check. What's really supporting the market today, and that's been a strong trend right from the morning, that's banks. Bank Nifty has found, some semblance of action on the upside, about 0.5% higher, and that's been sort of the major force. Along with banks, I mean, in the banking pack, HDFC Bank, Axis, ICICI Bank, these are the big ones that are right now looking at gains in excess of 0.5%. Along with banks, there's Pharma. Pharma has been a pretty steady story of the day. Cipla recovering from yesterday's big blow. Divi's has been up and about. So these are some of the names that have worked quite well. L&T and Reliance, two more names that are responsible for the recovery from the lows. Reliance is not doing much. It's very flat. But at least it's not a drag on the downside. And L&T is the other name which has managed to support the market for what it's worth. Guys, here we are. I mean, we've spent pretty much the entire day down to the last 1 hour. Okay, Prashant, are we getting a move? At least a 20-point move on the Nifty? I wish I could get you to wager something on this, but look at that index. I mean, it's just not done anything.
Well, you're asking me to prophesize, and that too over the next 60 minutes. But, this was, we were talking about this in the morning, that it's likely to be a listless kind of a day because, I mean, it's a long weekend coming up. Then you got next week, 4-day week, and then you've got state election results on Sunday. That is next Sunday. So this time next week, I mean, all of the conversation will be about what to expect over the weekend. So absolutely listless. The levels, etc., don't change. I mean, the levels have been exactly same, except the averages change, the moving averages change. But 19,875 on the Nifty on the upside is the resistance. On the lower side, the 40-hour exponential is 19,756. So the ranges are getting tighter and tighter. That is for sure. And once this goes, I mean, hopefully we'll get a bit of a move. Bank Nifty, despite the pullback yesterday, a 30% pullback yesterday, it's showing some green right now as well. I would still say, that is the sort of index which needs to do bulk of the work because the first thing is it needs to pull back above the 43,790 level, which is the high day before yesterday. We are actually pretty close to it, I think, about 40 points away, so that may happen. But the point is, it's not even taken that out. And then you got to talk about the retracements, the 38.50 and 61.8% retracements, etc. So, I think the work is cut out, and that's largely for the Bank Nifty. And without the Bank Nifty, it's very unlikely, as we've been pointing out, that the Nifty does something very spectacular or anything at all. So, absolutely, absolutely flat at this point in time. I think we're getting some flashes at the bottom of the screen. This is Supreme Court observations with regards to the Adani matter. So the Supreme Court saying that SEBI has to ensure that the loss of investor wealth post short selling are obviated. And I think these are observations which are coming through. SEBI has to ensure, okay, I think that's just the one line that we have so far. But that's the other thing which I think is on the market's mind, and we'll talk about that as some more of this stuff starts to come through. Reema.
Well, Ashmit has just added that the Supreme Court is looking at regulatory changes that SEBI can introduce to avoid such issues and instances in the future. So that perhaps explains the flash that you can see on your screen. We chatted with the technical analyst at Hemin Kapadia at Midcap Radar 1:30 p.m. He's like, we should have just had a holiday today, right? Just given the price action, given the volumes, the fact that it's a long weekend, everyone's already away, it appears, because markets have done absolutely nothing. The good thing is that at least the Nifty Bank has outperformed for the second day in a row. Nigel?
That's right. That's pretty good news in terms of the Nifty Bank. Finally, it's showing some signs of coming to life. But I think that 44,000 odd mark, that becomes a bit of a barrier, which in fact is the 50 DMA for the Nifty Bank. But Mitesh Thakkar is back with us on the show. Hi, Mitesh. Well, I don't know how many times to say it. We speak in the morning. We come to speak again at around this 2:30 p.m. odd. And the market's virtually unmoved. Do you think the Nifty just wants to consolidate in this 200-point range, wait for the state elections, and then take direction from there? How would you trade it? What about the Nifty Bank? More importantly, that's been showing some signs of life, and actually that's been the underperformer. So where's that headed?
Afternoon, Nigel. I remember we spoke yesterday, and the Nifty was down by a point, and I think right now it's down by about 5 points. So it's been very clearly a situation of very range market, and you've rightly highlighted that this is a 200-point kind of range, 19,650 to about 19,850. And as of now, we don't have a signal of a breakout or breakdown. So trading should be stock specific. The Bank Nifty, I think, is just covering up for the fall which happened on Friday. That fall led to the Bank Nifty testing the 200 average and is trying to bounce back. But till it gets past 43,950, 44,000, I think the Bank Nifty will also chop around. So we'll avoid the indices. On the stock side, I have a buy on Lupin, which I would recommend buying with a stop below levels of 1225 for targets of 1280. And a sell on M&M Finance, which I think, after a bounce back, is again giving the sign of negative crossovers on the hourly and 2-hourly charts. So sell here with a stop at 272 for targets of 250.
Okay, all right, got that. Mitesh, thank you very much for the calls. We'll come back to you in a bit for some more. We are getting some more observations on this Adani matter from the court, from the Apex Court. Supreme Court is saying SEBI must complete probe in all 24 cases. Remember, SEBI's contention has been that they have been coming to a conclusion on 22 out of 24 of the issues that have been raised. For the remaining two, SEBI has been saying that they need more clarity and more information from overseas regulators, and therefore the delay. That's how SEBI has been sort of explaining, the delay or the lag in the timelines to the Apex Court. So in that context, Supreme Court is saying that SEBI must complete the probe in all 24 cases, out of which 22 is where SEBI has already done some work on. Let's actually move on and get to our colleague Yash, because a lot of insurance stocks are up and about. Let's get them on the screen as well, whether it's LIC or New India Assurance, GIC, the reinsurer. All of these stocks are rallying. In fact, LIC is up almost, wow, look at that, 10%. New India Assurance, 20%. What is happening here, Yash?
Well, Surabhi, what a party as far as these PSU, general insurance and life insurance companies are concerned. And it's not just one day, today or yesterday. It's been happening for about a week now. Just look at a stock like New India Assurance. It's up 20% today, 41% in the last 7 days and 56% in the last 15 days. GICRE, another one, up 19% today, 30% in the last 7 days, 39% in the last 15 days. LIC, I don't remember this kind of move that we saw last on that stock. 10% today, 13% in the last 7 days. I've been speaking to a few analysts, and the feedback is that there is no structural change which has come about. There are those certain ancillary factors which are bringing this up move, and the biggest one out of them is the low float in all these insurance companies. New India Assurance about 95% held by government and LIC together, just 5% public float. GICRE again same thing, 95% by government and LIC together and just about 5% public float. LIC has just 3.5% public float. So low volumes, low public float, sort of putting these stocks on that move. The second reason is the rotation of funds which is coming in these stocks. Last week, of course, RBI's action led to some outflow when it comes to these NBFC stocks. which made its way into certain market pockets, and insurance being one of those pockets. And the third one is there's a lot of valuation comfort. So LIC trades at 1.6 times price to embedded value, New India at 1.6 times price to book value, GIC-RE at 1.5 times price to book value. Now, importantly, despite the strong rally, these stocks are really far from the issue price. New India, it has to double from this point to reach the IPO price itself. LIC has to move still 30% from current point to reach its IPO price. GIC-RE again about 34%. It has to move to reach the issue price of the company.
Okay, Yash, thank you very much for that. Helpful details there. Low float helping the stocks higher. In today's trade, up 10 to 20%, but still very far away from their issue prices. Hemang Jani is now with us on the show. Hemang, to pick up on one of the points that Yash spoke about, that some money is moving away from NBFCs and now finding their way to insurance companies where there is relative valuation. This was a call which was echoed even by Jefferies in the strategy note which they reported. They're saying we're pulling some money away from NBFCs because rate cuts in India are still some time away. And they find, or their preference is ICICI Pru Life, where there is relative valuation comfort. Your thoughts on the preferred bets in the insurance space, and which one, why?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon. I think that's a logical explanation to what has really led to some sort of a surge across the insurance companies. When you look at the data points, I think there is not a material change as such, though on the retail segment, on the insurance side, the new premium collection has been strong as reported by some companies. So I think this entire rotation exercise may continue for a while till the regulator is a little cautious of the growth in certain segments. And within the insurance space, I think surely, Pru ICICI and SBI Life, these are the two names that we prefer. And we think that both from a growth and valuation perspectives, these are better placed.
Okay. All right. With LIC, Hemang, you'd agree, right? I mean, I don't remember the exact number, but there is a bit of a correlation which what this LIC management had once told us in terms of, what is the benefit to their, how much does their, I think, embedded value move based on how much the stock price actually, how much, what the market does. I remember there was a sort of, rule of thumb, but I don't have that. I don't remember that right now. One other thing I heard about LIC was with this Adani case going on, and LIC is a big holder, right, in a lot of these Adani Group companies. If this issue kind of is resolved, etc., I'm not sure how that, if that is an overhang or anything. In any case, it's been a huge underperformer, but so have been most other large insurers, LIC, of course, being the biggest. It, by the way, is also one of the very few PSU companies which actually has not participated in this big rally that PSUs across the board have had in 2023. Let's just stay with us, Hemang. Honasa is what we want to ask you about next, but the stock was up 20% yesterday, and I think it's up still strongly right now. The second quarter numbers really lit a fire under the stock. Mangalam is here with continued coverage on this one. Mangalam, take it away.
Well, a bunch of reasons why the stock moved higher. One of them, of course, was the strong second quarter numbers. Secondly, was the initiation coming in from Jefferies and them having subsequently increased their target price from 520 to 530 post the numbers, etc. as well. The stock has nearly doubled from its post-listing lows of around 255, 256 odd, 85% jump. And this morning it was up close to around 13, 14 odd percent. But as we move to the long weekend, some of those profits have been skimmed off. The third more important reason for these exaggerated moves on the way up could also be a factor of low liquidity that is there. Because if you just take a look at the overall shareholding pattern of the company or the outstanding shares versus the ones which are locked for trade, you have close to 32.17 crore shares which are currently outstanding of the company, of which nearly 25 crore shares are locked. The first test of that comes in on December 2nd, where the first tranche of nearly 1.2 crore shares come up for, are able to be traded. Thereafter, there is another batch of 1.2 crore shares which will be able to trade post-January. Come May, nearly 50% of the stocks, holding would be available for trading. And thereafter, the next May 2025, you'll have the remainder 6.5 odd crore shares which are there. So if you take off the shares which are locked for trade, the only number of shares which are available in the market are close to 7.5 crores, which is just about 23-24% of the company's overall float, which is available to trade. And as a result of which, good results, brokerages covering the stock positively would mean that there would be demand for it, but not enough supply, and that would cause exaggerated moves on Honasa. Having said that, the fundamentals of the company were good, and ahead of the long weekend, we are seeing the stock come off the highs, still holding with gains of high single digits.
Thanks a lot for that, Mangala. Hemang, what do you make of this one? The numbers look quite good. The management commentary as well is good. But I was looking at the Jeffries note, and they are talking about the profit number move from around 11 crores to around 260 crores. Even assuming they do that of around 260 crores, the current market capitalization is 15,500 crores. That would mean that it's trading at around 58 to 59 times. Your view on it on current reckoning, because it appears the good forward earnings as well are already getting reflected in the stock price.
My take is that if we all recollect, at the time of issue, people had a lot of concerns about how the company has grown and what kind of valuations at which the company has offered the shares, etc. Now that the company has done well post listing, the numbers have been good. The way I look at this stock is that it's more of a momentum or a trading stock. There's no real great logic trying to analyze the numbers and say that, hey, this is expensive or cheap, because when there is a certain amount of money which is chasing and the floating stock is less, it is beyond logical or fundamental reasons. So I think, for the new IPO companies or many other PSU companies, that will be, the reason why you're seeing this action. I would personally not get into it, because I think, you need to give some time. You should give at least 2-4 quarters of numbers to get that comfort. So let's see how things go. I think it would not be appropriate to just go and chase a company which is in momentum.
Okay, got that. Looking at some more names that have done well today, as we're saying, don't go by the index, that won't tell you anything. Individual stocks. So some more PSU names. MRPL, by the way, has suddenly sort of rallied quite a bit, 5.5% up on MRPL. Then you have BHEL, which has done very well, as has SJVN. SJVN has been up and about 2. So these are some names. By the way, since we're talking some of these industrial/defense stocks, Bharat Dynamics is up 5% as well. So plenty of traction in the broader market today. Hemang, any thoughts on either HAL or BHEL? Some of these stocks are really flying around today, PSUs.
Absolutely. I think the news flow in terms of orders continues to get stronger, and this $1.4 trillion worth of order, particularly for HAL, and Bharat Dynamics and a whole host of companies, I think that should have some positive impact. And also, some of these stocks are basically in momentum. So when you have key markets being shut, and typically these kind of stocks tend to get a certain momentum. So I think as a theme, it looks quite interesting, and we think that the increased focus in terms of new orders bring the attention back. So both HAL and Bharat Dynamics, we have a positive view there.
Okay, Hemang, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us and running us through what you're making of things. Just one name, CG Power, if you can put the stock up. It's interesting because, it's been quite a week. The announcement on the fact that CG Power wants to get into, chip testing in the semiconductor value chain, that sparked a massive 20% rally in CG Power. This was day before yesterday. That was a 20% move. And then, yesterday in the morning, it moved up another 6 or 7%. So it made a new high of 504 rupees. It closed yesterday at about 460. So sharply off the day's high yesterday. And today it is down about 7%. So it basically is, eating into the 20% rally. It's basically cut that rally in half, and you back down to about 429 kind of levels or so. That 20% rally day before yesterday on CG Power added 12,000 crores in market capitalization. Just an announcement, and the stock ran up and how. But that's the market we are in. It's, of course, a much-loved stock. It's showed fantastic execution, great promoter pedigree, etc. But, maybe at the margin, a little bit of exuberance as well, which has gotten corrected. over the last 2 days, today included. We'll take a very quick commercial break here. Vaibhav Sanghvi is going to be joining us on the other side. He's CEO at ASK Hedge Solutions. That conversation coming up. Okay, welcome back. We've got the market, which is absolutely flat. 8 points, 10 points actually, 19,000, just under 19,800. So nothing at all. Weber Sangvi is now joining us on the program. He's CEO at Ask Hedge Solutions. Weber, pleasure to have you back on the program. It's been a while, and I'm presuming actually that it's a new role. So tell us a little bit about Ask Hedge Solutions. I mean, what do you guys do? Is it a long short product, a fund? I mean, just a little bit about the work that you do.
No, of course, Prashant. I'm glad to be back. On your show. ASK Hedge Solutions actually is a business which is aimed at generating risk-adjusted returns. Yeah, as you would know that we've been always focused on risk-adjusted returns, and this is where we will be having hedge solutions across platforms, including alternate investment funds, advisories, and any other vehicles which can aid to a client's portfolio in terms of providing consistency in terms of returns. So, a lot to do in the new role, and looking forward to it.
This is so basically AIF kind of product, right? I mean, it's a platform for these. Okay, got it. Just so both long and short. That always makes it more interesting. But it's been a long-only market, isn't it? Weber.
No, I would say no.
Of
course, I mean it has been a long-only market, and courtesy, to be very honest, the way our economy is doing well, the strength of the domestic investors in terms of the money flow, and of course, last but not the least, is basically the performance in terms of the quarterly numbers from the corporates as well. So it has been a good time for sure. But what we are seeing at the same time is, from a global perspective, things are getting a little bit turbulent and volatile. And probably from a top-down perspective, I think it's getting a little uncomfortable. But from bottom-up India story, it's kind of excellent.
So do you want to, Weber, afternoon, Rima here, do you want to tell us your long ideas and your short ideas currently in your portfolio?
So, Rima, I think I would probably lay more focus in terms of the sectors. And here, as I mentioned, that from a global side, we are not very comfortable. So we are playing the theme in terms of domestic versus global. And, like all the domestic-driven stories, including consumptions, industrials, of course, at a little more correction and at a better valuation. But financial services, rural focus sectors are something which we are probably looking at, and a multi-decade opportunity in renewables always, is pretty much on there. So those are the sectors which we are liking, and what we are kind of avoiding is basically global commodities, IT. Again, coming back to the sectors which have a larger export focus or a global focus.
Okay, so avoiding export-oriented businesses, looking more at India-centric businesses. Got that. We're good talking to you after a while. So then tell us a little more about that thought process when you're looking at domestic-facing themes, and narrow it down further for us. I mean, real estate has done so well. Defense stocks have done so well. Industrials in general have had a good 2023. What do you like the most?
No, I think industrials on a secular basis or a very long-term basis is something we would definitely like. And along with the defense sector, but of course, I mean, I think there is always a price to be paid, in terms of your liking as well. So while from a business context or a business perspective, industrials will continue to do well, but we would be looking at an appropriate valuations or a little more of a correction from here to get in those segments. In terms of defense, of course, I think it is driven by the policy support. And I don't think that this is something which is, going back in terms of those days. So the policies incrementally are going to help the domestic, kind of manufacturers. And along with PLI, I think there is, a lot to kind of look forward to in terms of the whole sector. So, of course, these are the segments from a secular basis we are liking, apart from the renewables, which is a multi-decade opportunity.
Hi, Vaibhav. Good to speak to you after a while. The big IPO this week has been Tata Technologies, right? big subscription. I'm just looking at the updated numbers. It appears that they've received bids of around 1 lakh crore rupees. So that's the kind of interest out there. So what's your view on the ER&D space? You know, stocks like KPIT Technologies, they have, as it is, you know, they're up 3 times, I think, in the last 18 months or so. Your view on it?
I think the business opportunity on that segment is massive. It is just upon, good execution or management with good execution capabilities who can kind of capture that opportunity. And in all honesty, I think this space will command, some amount of premium to the overall, kind of comparable sectors as well. So we do like that space. And we are okay to pay some amount of premium as well on there.
Okay, a premium on that. Vaibhav, just a quick check on something. I mean, would you, when you go long in a fund structure like you, does momentum play a large role? I mean, you basically buy what's doing well, or is it more to do with the fund? Yeah, go on.
No, I think momentum definitely, is one of those factors which we would look at. But, our whole decision process is kind of focused towards opportunity cost. And what do I mean by opportunity cost here is that, irrespective of what we take in terms of our long portfolios or our short portfolios, on a net basis, long minus short or short minus long has to keep on making that kind of consistent returns. So a rupee probably deployed in stock A versus stock B, if somebody has a near-term catalyst along with some amount of decent momentum, lying in those kind of names, we would try and capture those into our portfolios. So that is the overall underlying theme. Kind of sounds easy, but extremely dynamic and complicated to kind of execute.
Vaibhav, thank you very much for joining in. Congratulations on the new role and look forward to chatting more with you. By the way, the Nifty IT index has moved to the day's low. It's showing you a cut of close to about 1%. And with that, it's erased its weekly losses too. So week to date, the Nifty IT index is down nearly 0.5%. But one stock which is on a tear recently has been Hero MotoCorp. The shares hit a 33-month high on the back of strong festive season. The company's recorded retail sales of more than 14 lakh vehicles in just a 32-day festive period starting Navratri to Bhai Dooj. That's a 19% growth compared to the prior year in October, the previous festive period. Parikshit caught up with Niranjan Gupta, CEO of Hero MotoCorp, to discuss about the strong festive season, the expectations going forward, and will the company step up its premium play?
Yes, it's been a record festive sales. The factor that's working for us is, one, the portfolio that we keep revamping. For instance, we launched the Passion Classic back. We've premiumized our 110cc, 125cc through X-Tech variants that we have done. So the focus is on growing the core, which has really worked well. And of course, on the premium, as you know, that our launch of Harley HDX 440 was quite successful. With bookings, we have 4 to 5 months order book on that, equally on Charisma as well. We're also doing a lot of revamp on the stores, where 2.0 stores have now reached 200. We've almost converted like 1 store a day over the last 6 months, and these stores look absolutely fabulous. We've launched our premium stores. So it's like action on all fronts, if you ask me, which is what is working for the company now. As we said, we are changing gears. And clearly the first 6-7 months of this journey has shown the speed and the scale of the ramp up on various fronts that we're doing. We've opened with 3 stores and we're going to take it up to 100 stores by June end. And like we said, we've got a 25,000 order book on HDX 440. So it's only a matter of supply, which is there. So sales actually become just a function of supply. And we are ramping up supplies as I spoke about. Similarly, Charisma, we've got more than 10,000 bookings that we have. And again, so order book is very strong. We are ramping up the supplies. The sales have just started. So we have no concerns. In fact, we're very delighted that we're running with a 4 to 5 months order book. And as we then will be launching, as we talked about, the 440cc platform. On that platform, a Hero badged product as well in March quarter. So all together, we are going to have a very strong portfolio of premium products as we move forward.
All right, so that's a word in from Hero MotoCorp. We'll take a quick break on that note. We'll come back on the other side and, as always, get you a check on what's buzzing in dealing rooms today, and then some final trades with Mitesh as well.
Welcome back. Well, the IT index is under some pressure and TCS actually has moved to the low point of the day. One factor that could be playing out here is the stock is trading X buyback. So yesterday was the last day to buy to be eligible for the buyback. And that could be one of the reasons why the stock has been seeing selling pressure all through the day. And now as we speak, it's moved to the low point of the day. So just thought we'll spot that out for our viewers. But it's a Friday, only 25 minutes to go and we're off to the weekend and a long one. But before that, let's get in Nimesh. He's going to tell us what he's picking up in the street chatter. Nimesh, tell us more.
Hi, Nigel. An extremely range-bound day of trade and understandably so, right? We don't have much cues from the US markets tonight. We are heading into a long weekend as well. So the flows are muted. But again, the feedback is that the broader market seems to be outperforming. And within broader markets today, it's the insurance companies. So the rotation continues, big moves in the insurance names. Some of them are locked at 20% upper circuit as well. But having said that, even the other PSU stocks are doing good. So in general, the PSU basket has been relatively outperforming. The top F&O gainer seems to be the likes of BHEL and HAL as well. Looks like after today's move, BHEL will be again in the F&O band. So that is something to watch out for. In terms of triggers to watch out for next week, of course, Monday is a holiday for us. But the F&O expiry, MSCI, both are on the same day. And that day evening we'll have the exit poll for the state elections as well. So big week coming up next week. So that's something to watch out for, not in terms of flows, but in terms of the election trigger as well. So that's something to watch out for. But today it's lackluster and understandably so. And I guess everybody is waiting for the markets to get over to enjoy the 3-day long weekend.
Lovely indeed, Nimesh. Even I'm looking forward to it. But tell us, what are the individual stocks you're picking up?
Well, Nigel, in terms of individual names, it's a long list. So the first stock on my list today is Paytm. That's going to be very interesting. The stock is under pressure today. There is a large block, nearly 2.5% equity got changed hands. I understand it's a clean out trade from a very large conglomerate holding company. So that disclosure will be quite interesting. In terms of buyers, I understand it's a mix of both domestic and FIs who bought into today's block. So that's Paytm. The second stock is Granules. For the last couple of days, that stock is buzzing within the pharma names. Good volumes as well. And I understand some domestic mutual funds are actively buying into that stock and hence a big up move there. The third stock is Sterlite Technologies. That stock quietly has been moving in the last many days. The volumes are on the higher side. Looks like some HNI interest is back in Sterlite Technologies. In terms of triggers for the stock to watch out for, of course, the Vedanta fundraising could be quite interesting for Sterlite Tech as well. And also there is a buzz of some monetization of their non-core assets in Sterlite Tech. So that's something to track. And the last one is IOC. For the last many days, there was aggressive buying happening in HPCL and BPCL. Today stands out to be IOC's day. So huge volumes from larger FIs. So expect high delivery volumes, but IOC is well bid by long only funds today.
Interesting list as always, Nimesh. And the first one, Paytm caught my eye. Under pressure, clean out trade from a leading conglomerate holding company. Now, thinking cap is on.
Well, Prashant, your guess is as good as mine. I don't want to speculate the name, but it's going to be one of the largest names which might get reported in today's block deal. So just wait for the
largest in India or largest worldwide?
Largest worldwide, Prashant, and they hold exactly 2.5% stake. If you look at the sharing pattern, you'll get a fair idea on what I'm talking about. But a fund, maybe the biggest name, so to speak, sitting on almost $150 billion of cash. So let the name come out today.
Now my mind is zeroed in. I don't want to name since you're not naming, but now I got the. So that's very, very interesting. Nimesh, thank you very much. So Paytm will get the disclosures later today. And as Nimesh gave you the hint, sitting on a very large amount of cash pile, one of the most revered names in the world of investing. And we'll put out the name and of course the details as and when it comes out. Paytm is down about 3% or so, just under 900 rupees at this point in time. Well, Mitesh is back with us to tell us what to buy or sell today for a reverse trade on Tuesday. So it's a bit of a gap. Mitesh, what does one do?
I think difficult given the fact that Monday will be a trading holiday, but on the stock side, what I like is Asian Paints. I think it's given a 4-5 day kind of a pullback now. So BTSC here is the stop at 31.20 for targets of around 31.70. And Nestle is something, Prashant, which is seeing some weakness. So Nestle, I would recommend taking an activity position. Keep a stop just above levels of 24,265 and look for a target of 23,800.
By the way, Mitesh, since we have you right now, did you put out any of the insurance names in your picks earlier? They're all rallying.
Yeah, I had a buy on HDFC Life, disclaimer, is a part of my portfolio, so I think there's some vested interest over here. But that's about it, I think, yeah.
LIC, signs of life here, anything? Have you looked at the chart?
Yeah, I was in fact just looking at it, the strong price and volume action happening over here. This appears to have triggered some kind of a reversal on the upside, and I think the stock should now head towards levels of 720-25 once it clears the 685 zone. See, 680 was the highest closing the stock mid September, and the intraday high that day was around 685. So I think let it clear this, but I think the stock is definitely triggered an up move, and therefore I think if you get it on declines, buy it for about 685, add for a target of 725 to begin with, and then maybe we'll revise the target.
Okay. By the way, guys, LIC, it's the second largest volumes since May of 2022 when it listed. Today is the second largest volume day already with 18 minutes to go. So it won't reach the listing day high, which was, of course, the highest volume so far, single day volumes. But today is the second highest by far, actually, on LIC. So it's backed by volumes as well. Delivery, etc., we'll have to see. That data we'll only get later. But it's up 9.5%. Even price action wise, we've not had such a large move in a long time now.
I think the IPO price was 949 on LIC. So 949 was the IPO price. So from that level, we're still about 30% away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's struggled. Tomorrow it's going to be at the SEBI board meeting. The board is scheduled to meet tomorrow evening, I think. Yash is here with what to expect. What's on the agenda? Yash, tell us.
Well, Prashant, this is Saturday, but we would be working tomorrow. That's because market regulator SEBI would be working tomorrow. The board of market regulator SEBI meets tomorrow. The press conference is scheduled for about 5:30 p.m. in the evening. And I'll come straight to the most important thing that market regulator SEBI would be discussing. And all we can hope for is some decision on those points. That is with respect to voluntary delisting regulations. Now, SEBI has put out a consultation paper on the changes that it has proposed with respect to the delisting regulations. The first one is with respect to getting an alternate mechanism to the reverse book building process, which currently is followed as far as delisting is concerned. What could be the alternate, regulation to the reverse book building process? That could come in the form of a fixed price delisting to avoid any price manipulation as far as once the delisting announcement has been made. Another point which market regulator would be discussing would be to reduce the threshold when it comes to a counter delisting offer. Right now, if 90% of the shares are received under delisting, only then a counter offer can be made. The discussion would be if this 90% threshold could be reduced to whatever point the market regulator and the board seems appropriate. The third one is for determination of floor price and the reference date for delisting. Here, market regulator SEBI would be discussing changing the reference date for determination of floor price to the date of the board meeting from the current rule, where the date of intimation to stock exchanges is taken as the reference date for discussion of the floor price. The last and the most important point, SEBI would also be discussing the delisting regulations for holding companies, or IHCs as they are called, investment holding companies. Here right now, it's the same delisting regulations for normal companies and holding companies. SEBI could come out with a separate list of delisting regulations for holding companies. Here, if a holding company has investments in other listed companies, in case of delisting, transfer of shares of those other listed companies where the holding company has investments could be approved. Also, the second thing, if holding company has investments in another unlisted companies, then in that case, cash payments could be given to the shareholders in case of delisting of that investment holding company.
All right. Okay. Got that, Yash. Thank you very much. So we'll watch out for this SEBI board meet and see what eventually transpires. Thanks for filling us in. Let's welcome our next guest on the show then. Mayuresh Joshi, Head of Equity Research at William O'Neill, is with us now. Mayuresh, thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good to have you on the show. Let me just start with some of the Adani Group stocks that obviously they're in news today. There's also price action. I'm seeing Adani Power, for instance, on my screen now. Stock is up 4.5%. Volumes are surging. This is a hard one because the matter is still being heard in court, and I'm not getting into the legalities of it. But what is your view on any of the larger companies? Have any of them been on the radar a buy, or are you completely steering clear and staying away from the entire group?
Good afternoon, Surbi. So to be very honest and in the earnest opinion that I will give you, I think we will be waiting out for what probably comes out from the judgment by the Honorable Court. Obviously, a few statements have come through today, but once the complete picture is out, the markets will get a complete clarity for this entire saga. And thereafter, I think a conscious decision can probably be made. However, between all the stocks that probably are there, I think a couple of stocks probably stand out in terms of our watch list. So we are definitely watching out for the ACC Ambuja twins. The cement pack is something that can do exceedingly well generally in the next few years. And obviously, I think the kind of numbers that they have been posting, the expectation is that synergies and operational efficiencies will start flowing in. The other one also to watch out for would be Adani Ports. And a lot of activity is probably expected to come through in terms of both container volumes and the expectations in the sum of parts that Adani Port probably derives as part of its intrinsic value as well. So nothing in terms of something that we are buying right now, but yeah, these two stocks definitely out of the whole pack do remain on our radar and on our watch.
All right. Hi, Mayuresh. Good to see you in, Mayuresh. What about NMDC? The street seems to be quite excited about the prospects out there because we gave a heads up there's likely to be a price increase, but even after that, today I've seen the stock react positively. Clearly, the street believes that iron ore prices are going to remain firm. Your take?
Afternoon, Nigel. That seems to be the case. And comparing to the import parity, NMDC prices, both in terms of lumps and ores, even with the rise or the increases they've taken, is still below par in terms of international market value. Having said that, the expectations in terms of reasonable volume growth for the next financial year, along with price increases that we've probably seen, is something that is abetting a strong move in the stock that we've probably seen. But I think it ultimately boils down to consistency in terms of both volumes that they're able to deliver and the pricing mechanism as well. We're probably seeing a lot of expectations of pricing mechanism being extremely steady across market cycles and moving in tandem with market cycles. That probably leaves some element in terms of disappointment because they hardly are at regulated prices globally. So to that aspect, the value in terms of both the expectations of volume growth remain strong. The expectations in terms of dividend yield and return ratios remain strong. But the stock probably remains laggard in terms of price move. Our take is that it might just stay constrained in a very, very tight price range, at least for the foreseeable future.
Here, Mayuresh, we need to slip into a very short break. We'll come back and 10 minutes left for markets to close. Welcome back. The Nifty is exactly at that 19,800, down 1 point. Mayuresh is still with us. Mayuresh, would you go ahead and buy Honasa Consumer at current levels?
No, frankly not. And again, I think a lot has been spoken about it. Mangalam had put a very beautiful piece out in terms of how low the free float is. Underlying volume growth in the preceding quarter was relatively strong at 27%. But it's very difficult to make a case after the move that the stock probably has delivered at this juncture. So I think we will probably give it a pass, considering the move that it has given. Better opportunities in the market as we see it at this juncture.
Any of these insurers you track, Mayuresh?
Afternoon, Prashant. I think they have done phenomenally well. So probably look at GIC as an example again. The kind of expectations in terms of the combined ratio that they've been delivering around 118%, solvency ratio at 2.52. The gross written premiums have been pretty reasonable and decent so far. They obviously retrocede a part of the reinsurance premiums to pass on the risk to other insurers as well. And to that extent, I think the kind of market growth that is expected at 10% over the next 4 years, primarily led by health, motor, and then farm insurance, that market should grow reasonably. It has a very reasonable market share of more than 60%. And to that extent, balance sheet dynamics look strong. So yeah, I think momentum is probably there, Prashant, with these counters like GIC within the non-life insurance space.
You know, you're talking about low float with about Honasa. I think, as Yash was pointing out, with a lot of these insurance companies as well, that is partly the story. We don't know. And of course, the other part very clearly is with the stark underperformance. And one thing which is very clearly on display is that underperformers have, are doing well. OMCs is another case in point, between 20 and 30% going into an election cycle. I mean, unheard of, but that's what's happened. So yeah, I mean, that's a powerful enough factor. Cipla is coming back a little bit after, the cut that we saw. So that is another one. BHEL has come up about 6.5%. So yeah, there's lots of these names jumping around. GMR Infrastructure is up about 6% or so. Very, very large volumes in that one today. Data Patterns, I'm not sure if there's any news flow, but 7% higher. Stocks at about 1985 or so. Card Trade is up about 7%. So this is a Kala Mandir. That's a Sai Silk new listing, relatively new listing, almost 300 with about a 5.5% pop. So very, very quiet at the index level. I think second day running is actually literally blinking red and green. That's how flat it is on the Nifty. So we started at 19,800, we end at 19,800. So it's one of those rare days for the market. Mayuresh, great speaking with you as always. Thank you very much for your time. Have an extended, enjoy a long weekend, and we'll see you back, talk to you next week. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's just quickly start wrapping up things. So flat on the Nifty, and let's just look at the Nifty Bank, which will end about 0.5% higher. Will we cross that level of 43,790? Not quite. Just still a little short of that particular number, 43,775. 15 points off that number for the Nifty Bank. The mid and the small cap indices, I think, had a much more decent session. Although, when the intraday and small cap index will tell you that we've come off quite a bit, actually, on the small cap index from the day's high. The day's high was made right at the word go at about 926 or so, and we end only about 1/3% higher. The mid cap index will end again almost unchanged, literally nothing, no change on the mid cap index, 42,030. So it's as quiet as they come. Long weekend, and I think so. Lack of global cues as well. No US markets last night. Today as well, US markets will open, but they will shut early. So in that sense, when we come back on Tuesday, you basically will have just one day to react to, which is Monday's session to react to, provided not very much happens today later in the US. Prima.
I think that was the key, right?
Yeah.
Just the fact that there were no global cues coming in, at least from Wall Street. Indian markets are shut. Very ranged. In terms of the big movers, large cap movers, on the way down, IT sold off. The Nifty IT index down over 1%. Wipro, HCL Tech, TCS taking a hit. Britannia down 1.5%. And Apollo Hospitals too sold off quite aggressively. On the gaining side, Adani Enterprises, top Nifty gainer, 3% rally. Pharma names rebounded, particularly Cipla after yesterday's drubbing. Cipla was higher by 2.5%. You had strength in a couple of private sector banks. So Axis Bank, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank. Gains range between 0.5% to 1%.
And then there was the story of government insurance companies, right? It's been really the big sort of trend from the mid-cap and small-cap action. LIC is going home with gains of almost 9.5%. GIC up 15%. New India Assurance has spent the better part of the day locked in 20% upper circuit. It's been phenomenal, the move that some of these government insurers have made. But it's not just the government insurers. HAL has had a very, very good session, 5% on Hindustan Aeronautics. BHEL about 6.5% up, so not looking bad. Bharat Dynamics, since we're talking defense-related stocks, 5% up on Bharat Dynamics. Castrol is up about 3.5%. Jupiter Wagons up about 5%. And Granules as well from the pharma pack is up about 4%. So quiet session for sure, but individual stocks as usual flying around. I'm just checking if there are any major noticeable losers worth highlighting. Well, some profit taking on NBFCs continuing. There's Mannapuram, there's L&T Finance Holdings, RBL Bank. So very clear, guys, that that whole impact of the RBI announcements, that's still working its way through the system. Not entirely over and done.
Absolutely. We had, by the way, the Ujjivan management this morning.
Yeah.
They said that they're working to lowering what they internally think they'll be able to, they want to grow. So first half growth was some 40% plus, but second half they're saying, they didn't put any number, but they said we're seriously looking at moderating
their own internal filters,
growth targets in advance as well. So that's the impact of the RBI, not just, of course, the measures which were announced last Thursday, but of course midweek, the statements from the governor himself, putting a fair bit of emphasis on what they've done and what they'd like to see happening with banks and NBFCs. Well, it's a wrap on this edition of Closing Bell from all of us here. Goodbye. Thanks very much for watching. It's a long weekend, so enjoy yourselves. Have a restful, long holiday. But don't go anywhere for now, because our Friday special Smart Money will take up all the action going forward.